From Hasbro and Transformers Armada, this is Starscream and Thundercracker. Now, Thundercracker is a repaint of Starscream, and if you remember the Transformers Armada show, that is Starscream from the final few episodes. Yes, he has the line, "I look like Thundercracker," but that was literally just so they could justify selling this toy under a different name. The reason why I want to review these two together is because, sure, they're similar toys, and sure, they're technically the same character if you really want to look at it that way, but it's because Starscream is the iconic look, whereas Thundercracker is the look I prefer, and it'd be kind of weird to do these as two separate videos, at least for me. So, we're going to look at these two together. If you're unfamiliar with Transformers Armada, this was the series that came out around 2002, it was the beginning of the Unicron trilogy. For many people, this was their introduction into the Transformers world, me being one of them. And if I had to describe what Armada figures are like, it comes out after Beast Wars, and it's as close to G1 engineering as Hasbro has ever done when it comes to redoing the main lines. The figures here were all based around their Minicon gimmicks. They were usually simple, intentionally designed so that a little kid could easily transform the toys. That means that articulation was limited, and at times the figures were a bit, spotty, shall we say. As we look at Starscream, you can definitely see, even for his time, he would have felt just a bit dated. But what really sells this figure is how massive he is, the fun gimmicks he does have, and the fact that, at the end of the day, Starscream is still the most iconic part of Armada, and even during the time, he was a very, very popular character, which explains why Starscream was still being produced in these colors at the same time that Thundercracker, his new color scheme, was being put out. And I am going to keep calling this guy Thundercracker, just know that in the show, both of these designs were Starscream. Taking a closer look at Starscream, a thing you should know is that this is the modern day equivalent of a Voyager. So this is a Supercon, was what they were called then. And I mentioned that they are a modern day Voyager. Allow me to show you something to kind of put this in perspective. Hey, Earthrise Starscream, also a Voyager. Yeah, that's how much things have shrunk in about 20 years. But looking at this figure, you can see there's a lot of detail going on, but unfortunately there's not much momentum here, so there's nothing in the head just goes up and down. You can move the arm side to side, but you cannot go forward with the shoulder pad. You can go forward underneath the shoulder though, and like I said, you got side to side, so you kind of have a swivel leading down to a hinge. You have a double jointed elbow, which is nice, and then you have a hinge at the wrist for transformation. You have nothing in the waist. You can go forward at the hip, but not side to side, so it's just forward and back. And then you have a deep knee, as well as a knee cut that goes side to side. And you have this ankle joint down here that can help you with some more difficult poses. Can we make this guy look like he's walking? Kinda. That kinda looks like a walk if, like, maybe he had just been concussed. So articulation's not the best. But like I said, Armada's big selling point were the gimmicks that you could have. So with Starscream, if you pull out the wing here, one sec, you can fold it out, and that becomes his sword. Now, there's people who still really love this, and I love the idea of it, but I never thought the sword looked too good on Starscream. It's just a bit too disjointed, but still, it is something that is unique to this Starscream. Alongside that, if I pull out Swindle, which is his Minicon partner, you can see that we can transform him real quick, get him back into his F1 mode. There's a port right here in the back, so I'm going to put Swindle in that port, boop, and that's going to release his missile launchers. So, that was the thing about Minicons, is they would usually unlock a weapon or a rocket-firing action thing. There were some where you need the Minicon to even transform the guy. Like, you can't transform Armada Blur without his Minicon partner. But with Starscream, it is somewhat unintrusive. I say that, as you can see, that goes really far back. Like, literally just to make space for his missile launchers, this figure is about 2.5 times deeper than it really needs to be. Like, the figure ends here. This is all just for the guns. But that is what gives Armada Starscream his silhouette. just to compare and contrast here, you can see Thundercracker has a wonderful color scheme. I adore this look so much. One of my favorite Thundercracker designs ever. I love the red face. I love the hits of red throughout. We can see his sword. It's always a bit hard to get it out. And then if we just look at it, right, one, it kind of has Thundercracker's G1 line. But, oh, come on. There we go. I would argue that's a better looking sword. And it's just because the red throughout kind of helps it look unified. Like, when I put it in Thundercracker's hand here, you can look and see what I mean about Starscream's sword. Starscream's sword, you just have that random black tip. Whereas with Thundercracker's sword, at least the red is throughout. I think it looks nicer. Alongside that, Thundercracker just generally got better paint all the way throughout. If we look at Starscream's forearm here, you can see he has an unpainted Decepticon logo. Thundercracker, meanwhile, his logo is painted. However, there is a reverse to this. You can see that on Starscream, the Decepticon logo, even though it is blotted out, it still looks nice. Thundercracker's is blotted out, and also it's pink. So it's a little bit worse in terms of the blotting. At least with this one, it's light enough to where you might not even notice that there's paint where the eyes should be. With Thundercracker, it is very hard to miss. So it is kind of a pick your poison in terms of which of these two have the better paint scheme. Another thing I'll point out with Thundercracker is, whereas Starscream is, mostly complete, my Thundercracker is complete. So, we can hit the cockpit here. On my Starscream, the sound effects died out a very long time ago. So it is very cool to still have that effect. And then we can pull out Thundercracker's Minicon, Zap Master. It is the same as Swindle, just in different colors. I do enjoy how the Minicons are color coordinated to go with their partners. And then, just like before, we're going to put Swindle up here. There we go. And that's going to unleash that. And unlike Starscream, Thundercracker still has his missiles. Here, we're going to test to see if the missiles still fire. So I have it here, and... Oh, there we go. Oh god, where'd that go? It doesn't fire, super, strongly. It's not gonna, put an eye out or anything, but it does go decently quick. That's fun. Looking at the missiles, you can see they're actually sculpted to look more like fire blasts, but at least on Thundercracker, they're gray, so I think the effect is kind of lost. I think they would look better if they were designed to look more like they were just rockets, but, it's interesting. While we are taking closer looks, I do want to specifically call out the head sculpts. I adore this Starscream head sculpt. I love the little smirk, how you can see the creasing in the corner of his mouth. And weirdly enough, the thing I love about Thundercracker is his silver eyes. Like, on Starscream, it's red eyes, silver face. It makes sense that Thundercracker would be inverted. But I think it also makes him look a little bit more, conflicted. Like, if there's one way I would describe Armada Starscream, it is that he was a conflicted character. Someone who was loyal to the Decepticons, but not loyal to Megatron. And I feel like Thundercracker really kind of helps show that with the kind of sad silver eyes. But that's enough looking at the big guys. Why don't we look at their Minicon partners real quick? Swindle and Zap Master are completely the same aside from their colors. This is Swindle. It is the Minicon that came with Starscream. If you want to transform him, you're going to push down the fin, raise up the wheels, push down the hands, flip down the feet, and pull them apart. He's not the most complex Minicon in the world, but that is good enough. And then for Zap Master, it is the exact same. And you can see, much like Starscream and Thundercracker, we've just gone from mostly red and black to mostly silver and blue. I do wish Zap Master had a little bit more blue on him, it's just in his feet. But I do think these two look pretty solid for what they are. Minicons were never the reason to buy the big figures. The more impressive Minicons were usually sold on their own in the 3-packs. But even still, I think these two can definitely hold their own. Now, I don't usually do on-screen transformations, and I don't know if this is going to become a permanent fixture of these retro reviews I do, but because these are older figures, I do think it would be for the best interest to actually show you the transformation. We're going to use Starscream for it. So, easiest thing is, we're going to pop the head down, raise up the cockpit, and then here in the torso, we're going to pull this down. So you can see we're already moving a lot of things around. Torso has become undone. Here in the hands, we're going to pull those down. Just because the figure's a bit old, it can be stiff sometimes. And then we're going to fold it around to be like that. You can see the arms don't really disappear. They more just kind of fold in on themselves. And while we're here, we'll go ahead and move the wings into position. The wings are supposed to just move up to the side and connect with the shoulder pads. And that's the top half of the jet done. Now we're going to come back here. Doop, doop, doop. There's a tab here on what would be Starscream's, well, posterior. And we're going to just connect it to the plane. There we are. We're going to take the ankle bits, fold them in. And then we're just going to... Oh, actually, I'm going to try to remember. Yes, here we go. We just fold them together like this. You can see what I'm doing. I'm going to flip it around so that the knee is facing the other leg. And then just wrap it around. And that gives you your jet mode. Let's get Thundercracker transformed, and we'll have a look-see. We'll go on through it again just because you can see the missiles are on him in case anything changes. So, again, doop, doop, and then undoing the torso. You have to undo the torso in order... there we go. You have to undo the torso in order for the head to stay in. Doop. And now that we're doing that, we'll go ahead and put the wings up, just like we did over there. Go ahead and fold up the arms. Again, with older figures, unless you play with them a lot, they will eventually get a little bit stiff with age. That's the reason why G1 figures can be so fragile nowadays. The Armada figures are definitely getting there. You gotta remember, these guys are almost 20 years old at this point. But, for my money, this is still a fun transformation. Is it the most impressive transformation in the world? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But it is a fun one, and I think it does get you a pretty impressive vehicle mode. Boom. Alright, let's look at these two. I think in vehicle mode, you can really see just how different Thundercracker's colors make him look. They almost look like different jets to me. But I do still like this design. It is a very futuristic looking jet, almost more like something you'd see on Cybertron than on Earth. I could see people not really digging the look of this, especially with all the undercarriage under there. It looks more like a tank with a cockpit. But I am a huge fan of it. The cockpit does always kind of drag down, which is a shame. You can't get it to get fully flush. That said, there are some good bits to it. Amongst other things, there should be a sound effect, but like I said, it's been burnt out on my Starscream. On Thundercracker, though, I can still hit that cockpit. Sound effects still work. You probably also heard that I accidentally set it off when I was trying to transform him. And then we still have decent-looking stylings throughout. Thing is, you can see all the robot mode here. You can see those are the arms, those are the legs. The transformation doesn't do much, but that was also not the point of Armada. Like I said, Armada is as close to just straight up doing G1 again as Hasbro and Takara ever got. They were supposed to be simple figures to bring in young children, and it worked. So, with all that said, we can now bring our Minicons back in. I'm going to demonstrate on Starscream. Just know that everything you could put Swindle, you can put on Zapmaster and Thundercracker. So the whole point of Minicons was that they could connect in robot mode or vehicle mode. So in vehicle mode, you can see that we can put Swindle right here on the arm. Doesn't really look all that good in vehicle mode. I can put it back up here and have the missiles go. Boop. Oop. There we go. It actually kind of works better in vehicle mode. But that's about it. There were some times where the Minicons could really connect and do some cool stuff. There was not really much integration here between Swindle and Starscream, at least in vehicle mode. I know that there is a way to get him right here. So, yep, you can see. If I can get it to work, there we go. You can get Swindle right under the cockpit, and that does help bulk it out. It kind of looks like he has landing gear now. That's probably the best place to put Swindle in vehicle mode. But, yeah, compare that to, say, Demolishor, where his Minicon becomes the front of the tank. Or Cyclonus, where it gives you a completely different cockpit for the helicopter. This isn't doing much. But still, it's alright. I'll show you the same stuff just to make sure. But Zapmaster goes into the same exact spots for Thundercracker as it did Starscream. So, we can put it there, we can put it on the arms, or we can put it underneath him. And get a cool... there we go. There we are. And it, like I said, it just kind of looks like landing gear. I think it's cool in that way, but I figured I'd show this too. So, to transform them back into robot mode, we're going to take the Minicon out. And then, what I like to do first is focus on the upper body. So we get the arms folded out, get the hands back in. Again, keep in mind, old figures, stiff bits. It can be a bit hard to get things flipped out sometimes. Come on, Thundercracker, work with me. Work with me, bud. There we go. And then I'll fold out the legs, doop. And again, over here, boop, fold out the legs. Make sure that we get the ankles out, the heel spurs. So I'm sure you can see what I'm doing. What I would like is to move all the pieces in such a way that we can get that head pop up as the final step. So I've pulled down the chest. What I'm going to do now is effectively I'm just going to flip the torso and let gravity take care of the work. And boom, we end it with a cool dramatic head reveal, and we'll finish off by flipping the wings. I love that. To me, that is the way you should always do a transformation. Make sure the head pops out last, and if it's spring-loaded, even better. Listen, these two aren't going to be for everyone. Armada in general isn't going to be for everyone. But I love them. I'm so nostalgic for this design, and I still think that at the end of the day, these are very fun, very big figures. Do they have problems? A ton of them. Are they perfect? Not even close. But they are good. They are great transformation experiences. Alongside that, if you were in the market just wanted to get this mold, and you wanted to get one of these two, Starscream is generally easier to find and cheaper, just because there's more Starscreams in the world. I prefer Thundercracker, but he's harder to come by because there were just less of him made. Alongside that, they did remold these guys into Skywarp and Ramjet. I'm sure both of them are fine, but I think this original version of the mold is so much stronger. So at the end of the day, I adore them, I think they're great, but I'm also not going to be singing their praises from the rooftops anytime soon. I just think they're neat little guys.